Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Fiber Broadband Association's Fiber for Breakfast. We're now in our 20th episode of 2023. But before we kick off, I'd like to thank Wesco, the platinum sponsor of Fiber Breakfast, and our gold sponsor, Gray Bar. You know, lots happening in DC. You know, the House has begun its oversight of the broadband funding programs. You know, there's a lot of concern about the government's ability to spend all the broadband money efficiently. The GAO testified before the Oversight Committee on the 10th, urging the FCC to establish metrics to better document effectiveness. And NTI will be before the same committee on the 23rd, so that's next week. Also, the House and Energy Commerce Committee will be holding a markup today focused on 28 permitting bills, broadband bills. So it's really important as we go to start deploying all the speed money that we want to make sure that we streamline permitting to really accelerate broadband deployment. And the Senate Commerce Committee has created a bipartisan Universal Service Fund task force to examine all the USF programs and contribution mechanisms. This was announced at the committee's hearing last week, and it could impact our ongoing support that allows Americans to have access to broadband. So we're really keeping a close eye on this. Also, the Senate Agriculture Committee will hold a hearing today on broadband with the eye towards reauthorizing of all Farm Bill programs. So there's a push to codify the Reconnect program under RUS and a recognition that the program has been successful in bridging the digital divide in rural communities and what could be improved. Also on Monday, the FCC released the first version of the broadband deployment maps as part of the updated national broadband map. And yesterday, you know, here we are in Austin, Texas. So we held our very successful regional Fiber Connect workshop here in Austin on the campus of the University of Texas. And we had an amazing line of speakers, including NTIA and the Texas State Broadband Office. You know, Texas is expected to get the largest BEAD allocation of any state in the nation. Our next regional Fiber Connect workshop will be in Lake Tahoe, California on June 21st. We hope to see you in the beautiful Squaw Valley Resort, as this is an important education event. Also, registration's open for Fiber Connect 23 in Orlando for August 20 to 23rd. This will be the biggest and best fiber broadband event in the world this year with over 4,000 attendees and an amazing program. So you're not going to want to miss that. And then after this Fiber for Breakfast this morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, we're holding our monthly Where's the Funding webinar program. And this morning's topic is navigating the NTI BEAD letter of credit. So if you're concerned about that, you might want to join us. You can go to our website under events, under webinars. Also, please join us tomorrow, Thursday, May 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern for a special webinar unveiling our Workforce Development Guidebook, a guide for states on workforce development for BEAD. And again, you can register at our website under webinars. And that brings us to today's Fire for Breakfast session with Sally Birchfield Doty, the Mississippi State Broadband Director, and Quinn Jordan, the Mississippi Broadband Association, to discuss turning the tide in Mississippi with fiber. Before I formally introduce today's guest, I'd like to introduce Trish Ehlers, my team, who's going to walk us through some housekeeping items.
Thanks, Gary, and good morning to everyone who's joined us today. Before I go over a few logistical items, I'd like to once again thank the platinum sponsor of Fiber for Breakfast, Wesco, and our gold sponsor, Gray Bar. Now, if everyone would just keep in mind that you're in listen mode only, you can ask a question at any time by typing it into the question box located within your control panel on the right side of your screen. We'll host a Q&A session with our panelists at the end of today's session. This presentation is being recorded and will be available on FBA's website within 24 to 48 hours. You can find it under the Events tab under Fiber for Breakfast. At the conclusion of today's webinar, you'll be prompted to complete a brief feedback survey. Please take a minute to do that. We do really appreciate your input. I'll pass it back to Gary now to introduce our panelists and get us started. Gary?
Thanks, Trish. Good morning. I'm Gary Bolton, the President and CEO of the Fiber Broadband Association. Last week on Fiber for Breakfast, we heard from Trent Edwards, the President of MIR's Broadband Division, on redefining the meaning of P3, people, partnerships, and preparation. Today on Fiber for Breakfast, we have the pleasure of hearing from Sally Birchfield Doty, the Mississippi State Broadband Director, and Quinn Jordan, Executive Director of the Mississippi Broadband Association, discuss turning the tide in Mississippi with fiber. So Sally was named by the Governor Tate Reeves as the first director of the Office of Broadband Expansion and Accessibility of Mississippi, codenamed BEAM, B-E-A-M. The new office serves as a single point of contact for broadband policy, grant funding, and an administration for the state of Mississippi. Sally's an attorney and most recently served as the executive director of the Mississippi Public Utility Staff. And previously, she served 3 terms in Mississippi, the Mississippi Senate, representing Southwest Mississippi, serving as the chair of the Judiciary A and vice chair of finance. Sally grew up in Kosciuszko. Is that how you say that, Sally? Kosciuszko. And I'll let you take it.
Kosciuszko.
Sorry about that. And has lived in Brookhaven for 25 years. She's adjusting life as an empty nester and welcome her first grandchild in November. I'm looking forward to that. Quinn Jordan is executive director of the Mississippi Broadband Association, and he's an accomplished executive with a passion for bridging the digital divide and creating opportunities for all Mississippians. Quinn graduated from Mississippi College with a degree in marketing and management. With a breadth of experience in telecommunications, private industry, and local government, Quinn brings a unique perspective to his role as executive director of the Mississippi Broadband Association. Quinn is dedicated to creating a future where all Mississippians can afford accessibility to the economic broadband services and the opportunity that connectivity provides. So welcome, Sally and Quinn. And for our audience, please type in your questions and comments as we go and work them into the Q&A. With that, I will turn things over to Sally and Quinn.
Sally, I'll yield the floor to you.
Oh, goodness. Well, first of all, Gary, I'm Sally Doty. I got to get that out there. So, grew up in Kosciuszko. My name is Sally Doty. No problem. I am the director. Our office has been in existence for about a year now. We were one of the last broadband offices to be stood up, I believe, in the nation. But we've hit the ground running. I've got 6 state employees. There's 6 in our office. And then we have 2 contract employees as well. But of course, we are supported by accounting, audit, outside folks. Also, we have a mapping contractor. We've used ready.net, and we're very happy with our results there. Hopefully, we'll talk a little bit about our map. And then we are also using Bell Labs Consulting for some data modeling. So even though we're a small office, we have a great group around us. Let's move through these slides a little bit. Keep on going. I think that it's kind of important to know, of course, where you are and where you start. And through our mapping efforts, we believe we have about 1.3 million, almost 1.4 million broadband service locations in Mississippi total, with about 300,000 that are unserved and 211 that are underserved. Now, out of that 300,000 number, that does not take into account some RDOF locations where there was money awarded, but those build outs have not begun. Also, that does not include our CPF. We're on the verge of being approved for CPF. We have not been yet. So really, once we get some of these other programs, there's some pending reconnect applications. Once we take those out of the equation, I think our unserved is going to come down to about 225 or so. So we're making great progress in Mississippi. Our co-ops have been, our rural electric co-ops have, in the past couple of years, just a tremendous amount of work. Let me tell you kind of what we're doing. If you'll run through these slides, our office currently is administering a broadband infrastructure program grant, which is $32.6 million, and we've got projects really all around the state. Then we, as I said, are on the verge of CPF funding. We hear Bird tells me that it might be in the next week or two. But we've not been sitting around waiting. Of course, we've been getting ready for that approval. We've been involved in a mapping challenge among our providers for the past month or so. I think we got 200,000 challenges in. So it's taken our small group a good bit of time to work through those. We still have some in a category that we're working on. So we really feel like, though, that mapping challenge for CPF was our practice run for the big challenge that we'll have to run over in the fall. So we feel good about where we are in Mississippi. We're working hard every day. I can throw it back to Quinn.
All right. Well, good deal. As she's moved through those slides, I think there's so many opportunities. Capital project funds. Sally's office has just been instrumental in our state of finding the right partners and just synergizing efforts in our small team to make a big splash, even though she was the last office stood up. So Sally, thank you for what you're doing. If you'll move into our slides down, moving on down to the next slide, please. One more. All right, the 4 W's of the Mississippi Broadband Association. If you go back, there you go. Thank you. We're a standalone 501c6 association. We were tapped back in December to kind of start this organization and association to, as Sally so poignantly puts it, she gets to count beans and I get to have all the fun. And so, you know, we got a lot of stuff going on, and so, but we are membership driven and community focused. The mission statement for our association is ensure fast, reliable, affordable, and sustainable accessibility to the broadband services and those opportunities that it affords. You know, there's so many gems in the state of Mississippi, and we'll talk about it later, but from our rural area that we live and the way we live our life, just having that connectivity is going to be a tremendous marketing tool for our state, both private and both in the private sector and the public sector. The what, you know, of our association, we're here to foster an environment of trust and partnerships amongst our largest and small ISPs and WISPs, contractors and professional services, suppliers and vendors, state and local government. Sally and I have a tremendous relationship. Even though we're autonomous, we make sure that we're pulling on the wagon in the same direction and making sure that we're heading in an area for our state that is really impactful, because again, like her office, our office is very small too, and so we just want to make sure that what our efforts that we spend, we're doing it together. And then workforce and career tech training centers is probably our number 2 area that we want to work on, along with Sally's office, is to ensure that we have a workforce that is ready to install and manage these networks moving forward over the next 3 to 5 years. And then our community in the state of Mississippi just needs to, we want to make sure that we're communicating to them the importance of high-speed data services and broadband services, and the importance of higher take rates. And so next slide. And so when we go through this slide here, it's a pretty long slide, but I'm just going to hit the high points of it. But when you talk about the economic side of why broadband is so important to our state, 14.6% of the 4th quarter of 2022 was spent on online digital sales. And so it's a tremendous part of our economy, both nationally as well as the state of Mississippi. But also we have a lot of small businesses in Mississippi that impact that online sales, and we want to make sure that we're reaching those unique individuals and their products and services, and for them to be able to market and sell those individuals online. But then you have the indirect side of the economic impact, and it's allowing for the retention and growth of our workforce. For so long, Mississippi has been a feeder for other markets because of economics of salaries, where people can go and make more money in other states. And so we've been losing a lot of our talent to other areas. And so with the indirect economic impact of broadband services is going to be, we're going to be able to retain those individuals. Therefore, their salaries are reinvested back here in Mississippi into their communities. The talent is left here in our communities so they can volunteer in our organizations. And just so the indirect, to me, is almost maybe as important as the direct, impact of economically. And then socially, the social impact, people are more connected than ever, and be able to offer them high speed, for you to be able to stop in Winona, Mississippi, and get on a Zoom call and be connected with Gary in Texas is, I'm picking on Sally a little bit. She's working on the road, and just the ability to stop and be connected to the world in Winona, Mississippi is, we've come a long ways, in Mississippi, and we've got a long ways to go. And then the entertainment side, as we all know, that entertainment is moving from your satellite services to more application-based services like your Netflix, your Hulu, and being able to stream those into our home. I'll use me for example. We're now officially about 2 months from the first time of ever being able to stream into our home. And we're 2 miles from Brookhaven, which is a nice size 30,000 community. When I say community, as a county whole. And so, being able to have those services, and then educational impact. I mean, I could go on for days on that, but the importance of connectivity on education is going to definitely is that we can allow our students access to online educational opportunities that are maybe different, because different students learn different ways, but also a safer environment for our students and our teachers to communicate. And then healthcare services. Healthcare is going to move more and more towards online services, especially in the Mississippi Delta right now. And Sally feels our pain in the Mississippi Delta. We're really struggling with our regional hospital in that area right now. They just got funding extended for another year to operate, but had not gotten that. They were planning on having to close their doors in the next 6 months. So telehealth services, and then the hub for nationwide communication. Mississippi's at the crossroad of communication. The north, south, east, west main lines that run across our nation intersect in Jackson. We've got the most supercomputers in the nation right here in Mississippi. And so, that is an important aspect of capitalizing and expanding on broadband. So next slide. So broadband is a key to Mississippi growth. A connected Mississippi is a better Mississippi. It's a better way to take advantage of the Mississippi lifestyle. I've mentioned this earlier. We really want to take and market our broadband services to, and I look out my back door to a 20-acre pasture with a pond, and just the Mississippi dream that we can sell to people that want to move out of the major cities and the hustle and bustle, and yet still be able to participate nationally and globally in a workforce. And it makes a connected Mississippi is a better place to work, as I just mentioned, and it's a better place to raise a family. I mean, it's just such wholesome values and ways for you to really participate with your kids in a more sheltered environment, I guess you could say. And then a connected Mississippi is a better place for agriculture production. With smart farming and grid farming that we're doing now, we're just able to apply fertilizer at a different rate per acre, to spray at a different rate per acre, to be better stewards of our land. I think the statistics was 10% of the world fed 90% in the past, meaning 10% of the population being farmers. That number has moved down to a lower number, to where it's like 5 or 6% of the world is feeding the rest of the world. And we're doing that because we're more and more efficient, and the farming is larger. Next slide. Workforce development. The two sides of workforce development and career tech we're working on is generational, and then the current needs. Generational is we're working with our K-12 and trying to getting more curriculum in the K-12 sector, and then moving to the current needs with a strong partnership with our community colleges. Next slide. Workforce and career tech. Mississippi has moved in the last several years to 5. We're actually better than that in our region. we have a strong community college system, and Sally and I really want to push that community college system as a way to make sure that we're training our people. Next slide. Upcoming events, we've got a couple of upcoming events to continue this ball rolling. We had a successful seminar summit last Thursday. Sally, it feels like a month ago because things happen so quickly. But we had over 200 attendees at our summit. We talking about yours, Gary, from NTIA, FCC, the USDA. We also had Sally. We had industry leaders, and just had a tremendous momentum push for our association. But we have two coming up. One in July, it's ISP and WISP workshop, and then in fall, we'll have a fall vendor showcase and funding conference in September. So we definitely encourage you guys to reach out to us. You can go to www.msba.info for our website for more information. So Gary, at this time, I'll throw it back to you.
Well, thanks, Quinn. And yeah, it was an amazing conference that you guys had in Jackson last week. I really appreciate you having me there. And I was super impressed with all the community colleges, the representation there. That was awesome. So I got a bunch of questions coming in from the audience. And, you know, Sally, I'm going to start with you. And so you were talking about mapping. And so one of the questions is, what constitutes a serviceable location?
So we're using the Mississippi statutory definition, which is 100 down, 20 up, Mississippi.
Great. And then what are you going to have maps that are going to be available for the public?
We have a map that is up right now on our broadbandms.com. That is the site that we're using to push out to our communities to run speed tests that will log into our state map. And we have the map up right now really for providers. If individuals know how to find it, they can get to it. But we're going to push that out in the next month or so, more for individuals to look at as well, to make sure that we have the correct information about their location.
And so speaking of maps, so, you know, you're working with ready.net and on your mapping. How important is that when you're looking at the FCC maps that's going to come in, you know, what NTI is going to make their allocation? You know, how valuable has it been to have your own maps?
Well, I think it is so valuable for us to make the decisions. You know, the feds are going to make their decision about funding. I don't think I can have a lot of impact on that. But as we take that funding, of course, we want to use it in the most economical and efficient way possible, because we've got a lot of certain locations that we've got to reach in Mississippi. So it's been so important for us to be able to see, you know, exactly where there is existing funding, and then around the edges of those places where perhaps there's service by an existing provider, perhaps not. You know, often, you know, it's the edges of these areas that are problematic. So it's been so helpful for us to have that map. It is extremely nimble. As I said, we've been in the midst of the challenge process already. So it is just getting better and better every day. You know, I did come from the Mississippi Public Utilities staff, and so I had a great relationship with a lot of utilities in our state. And so we have gathered a lot of location data from them. There's some problems on the FCC map with a good many of our locations in Mississippi, but we got meter data, residential meter data, and through our relationships with our electric co-ops and utilities. And I think I'm just real proud of the work that we've done. In addition, in cooperation with ready.net, to get this resource that we're going to use throughout the life of this build out process.
You know, Quinn, I was really amazed when I was in Jackson last week of just what a great job that, you know, you and Sally, the relationship you guys have, but also, you know, I had Accelerate Mississippi. We had, like you said, the NTIA, the FCC, RUS. I mean, there's all the state community colleges there. How is it that you're able to pull together everybody? It seems like everybody in Mississippi is now growing in the same direction. So tell me a little bit about how this, you know, the Mississippi Broadband Association came together and how you guys are all becoming an epicenter that, you know, kind of to support Sally.
You know, one of the things that I've found, it's easy to tell a good story, right? And it's easy to tell, it's easy to bring people together when we have a common goal that where we've struggled together. We've seen the needs and the impact of no connectivity in areas across our state to where, I mean, you know, I think you can talk to 1 out of 5 people in Mississippi that either has or maybe even more. If we look at our numbers, as Sally would show you, you know, 2 or 3 out of 5 that either have or has connectivity issues. And so it's such a relatable topic, and it's such a topic that we are able to get on common ground on, because what I've found is even from the large ISPs to the smaller ISPs to the community colleges to Sally's office is that we all want people served. And so making sure that our fellow Mississippians have connectivity and the services that it affords, I think it's just such an easy task, an easy topic to get behind.
So we know, you know, I know Sally and her team's working hard to get everybody connected. So once you have the service available, how are you going to get people in Mississippi to actually adopt the service? Because, you know, I was in Northwest Louisiana, and there's entire parishes where people don't participate in the internet. So given that you haven't had connectivity, you know, what's the plan to get everybody actually using this great broadband service?
This is going to be a real challenge. And so my office will also be administering the digital equity grant. We named it our Digital Skills and Accessibility Plan here in Mississippi. And that is the real challenge. And that is what I am talking to community groups about, is the importance of tape rates so we can support these systems, but also the opportunities that are provided if you know, have broadband at your house. You know, one thing that I've become aware of in my conversations with some different providers is perhaps some conflicts between Lifeline services and ACP. Apparently, if you get Lifeline data, you are then ineligible for ACP. It's tied to one household. So that is a real issue. You know, we don't work anymore with one landline phone at a house. You know, everybody in the house has a phone. Everybody needs a computer. So that's something that I really want to talk about with our federal partners and have that discussion as to how those two programs work together.
And then we want to come along, Sally, and launch our No Family Left Behind campaign to where people understand the importance of connectivity, Gary, in the future, that most, if not all, activities and how your home will be run will be web-based. It may not be tomorrow, it may be not next month, but it's coming to where the reliability on connectivity is not going to be an option, it's going to be a requirement. And to get our people ahead of the curve and to understand that that's coming, I think will be instrumental in them budgeting for these services, and also working with our ISPs to make sure that we have a high-speed, affordable option that our citizens can take advantage of. Because in Mississippi, we have a low per capita income. And so we have to recognize that with both balancing speed options with affordability.
Well, as you get everybody connected in Mississippi, you know, the economic impact is going to be amazing. And, you know, not only are you going to be able to keep people to live and stay in Mississippi, but I'm sure all these people that are living in these high cost areas are saying, I'd love to live in a place like where Sally and Quinn live and be able to have my high paying Silicon Valley job or wherever they're working.
It's a great quality of life.
There is.
All right, well, listen, Sally, you know, good luck to you on the road, and thanks for all your hard work. And Quinn, again, was blown away. I really appreciate you putting workforce development at the top of the list and getting, you know, rallying all the community colleges. It just looks like that you guys are working hand in hand, and everybody in Mississippi is rolling in the same direction. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
All right, well, thanks everybody for joining us today. I look forward to getting back together next Wednesday. Our guest is going to be Mike O'Day, who's the technology guru at Corning, to learn about the amazing innovations and advancements in fiber. So you're not going to want to miss that. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. And hopefully you guys can join me in a half hour for Where's the Funding? They can learn about the letter of credit with BEAD. So we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, Gary.